Okay, so what I am doing today is I've been contacted by several government entities asking about some best practices when it comes to point of sale being used in their organizations, especially now as the economy's looking a little better and they have some money to spend. And of course, this applies to everything from, municipal golf courses to DMVs, places to get permits for trucking to museums, state-run gift shops, retail stores, restaurants, etc., etc. I am going to go through this kind of quickly because I just want to hit kind of the high-level things. So just be warned, it's going to go fast. So first up we have is basically, who the heck am I? So my name is Kevin. I've got 7 years of restaurant management experience, 7 years of retail management experience, 15 years of experience selling point of sale systems. And that wasn't just to your standard everyday retail store, restaurant, or museum, but to very large uh, public sector organizations like, the way stations where truckers get their permits. And of course, state-run museums, city-run golf courses, and also a lot of municipalities like their police department or their emergency services keeps a warehouse, and they need to keep track of things in the warehouse. So again, that's my background. I currently do not represent any point of sale companies, so this is unbiased information, but it's based on all this experience, as well as personally working with over 20 different point of sale programs, including the stuff that runs on the mobile devices like the tablets or smartphones. So first thing you should be doing is you need to start with your wish list. And of course, you're thinking, well, I got to get my RFP, RFQ, all that stuff going. But these are things you need to think about. And again, I'm just going to roll through these, and you can always contact me for more details and more information. But as you think about your what I call wish list, you're going to be looking at things that the program must do for you. Things around inventory, tracking, reporting customers, accounting interfaces, gift cards, audit trails, security settings. What do you need for peripherals? And by peripherals, I mean things like, the cash drawer, the receipt printer, barcode scanner, barcode printer, customer poll, price display, device for counting, doing physical inventory counts, all those things. You need to factor in who you're going to be using for merchant services, because a lot of you are probably on some sort of contract with your municipality, at a state level, city level, something like that. Um, do you want a system that runs on a computer, one that runs on a mobile device like a tablet or a smartphone, or should it run on both? So as you're thinking about that, keep in mind that the mobile solutions generally have monthly fees, whereas the computer solutions, they more so just have annual fees outside of the initial purchase price. And then, talk to your IT head. What are they comfortable with? Do they want you using a system that runs on a cable network versus a wireless network? What are some requirements from the IT folks regarding to firewalls and network security? Who's going to handle things like the antivirus and malware protection, updating the software, backing up the database? Who's going to provide the computer equipment? Under the vendor considerations, are you comfortable working with someone who's not in your area? Keeping in mind that means if something breaks, either your IT folks are going to have to handle it or it's going to be remote support. And of course, that carries over into things like the training, installation, ongoing support. What are the warranties? How are you going to get additional paper and label supplies? What are the ongoing costs for the software updates and support contracts? And then you really, 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 can I say really? You really need to designate a main point of contact within your organization for the point of sale system. Because just like you need one contact at the vendor level, they need one contact from you for scheduling the training, dealing with outstanding issues, things like that. So That being said, let's roll right into the gotchas. And those are basically things you should be avoiding or things you should be asking and why. And again, I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as I can. Um, avoid point of sale systems that require you to use a certain company for merchant services. Merchant services is the term for who handles your credit and debit card processing. The reason I say that is if you're locked into a contract, you have to use them. You can't switch away. What I've seen in the past is then they're going to raise your rates, and there's nothing you can do about it. It may not sound like much, but it can easily add up to two, three, maybe even $5,000 over the course of, say, 5 years in extra merchant fees. I'm sure your budget monies would be better utilized somewhere else than paying, you know, Square or Harbor Touch or Intuit or Clover excess merchant fees. It doesn't make sense. Next one is buying different parts from different vendors. Just get the whole system from one vendor. When I say system, I mean, the software, the app, any of the hardware, any of the peripherals, supplies, support, training, everything. Reason being is if something breaks, say the receipt printer stops working. Well, if you bought from three different companies, and you call for support because the receipt printer isn't working, the place you call for support, say you start with the receipt printer company, well, they're going to say it's a software problem. Call the software company, they say it's going to be the receipt company's problem. You're just going to be stuck in the middle. I call that the blame game. Each vendor is blaming the other. Just avoid it. It's not worth it. You wouldn't save that much in the long run anyway. Get a real demo. Sounds kind of vague, but what I mean by that is don't get a canned demo presentation of the software that you're considering. Get a real demo of the actual program. Reason being, canned demos can hide, if the program's slow, maybe has a couple of bugs in it. But if you're getting a demo using the actual software or the actual app, those things will come to light. So don't rely on canned demos. Rely on actual demos of the actual program. Obviously, you're thinking you're going to check references anyway, but talk to any, organizations or businesses using any point of sale systems that you're considering. And one real cool thing that I suggest and that I've done is ask for some brutally honest feedback. That brutally honest kind of opens the door for them giving you, the good, bad, and the ugly about the program, not just the fluff that a lot of people like to give when it's just a high-level conversation. And even better, if you have the ability, is to see the program in use in person. Then you really get a feel for how well it works. Next one up, don't buy any of the Microsoft products. I hate to say that. I've loved their products over the years, but they're all end of life. They're all discontinued. Why would you buy something that's discontinued? It just doesn't make sense. As needed, if you're open extended hours, make sure your vendor has extended hours of support. No sense having something break and then no one around to give you a hand to fix it. Ask about EMV, and that's the EuroPay MasterCard Visa agreement. The U.S. compliance date is October of 2015. These are the chip cards, not the credit cards that you swipe, but the credit and debit cards that have the chip inside. The reason I say is, one, there's no sense investing in something now and then finding out in September of 2015 you have to repurchase some hardware and pay for a software upgrade. Two is if the vendor you're working with can't tell you what their EMV plans are for hardware and software, it's a huge warning sign that they're not thinking about the future. I would seriously not consider that vendor if they can't give you a solid answer on their EMV plans. Related to that is the next one, plan for the future. You're investing for something that should be lasting about 5 years. Make sure it can grow or what we like to call scale with your organization. So if you add locations, add products or services, that it can adapt to the size of size changes. Next one seems kind of common, but ask what happens to your data. Reason being is if something happens, you need to know that you have full and complete access to all your, like your customer information, your inventory information, your supplier information. On a personal level, please invest in learning the system. I know it's a time commitment, but I hate it when folks spend money on a system and then it ends up being a glorified cash register or an expensive cash register. Personal advice, avoid the extended warranties, but budget for breakage. Easiest thing to do, set aside $500 per location each year in your budget to replace something that needs, repair or replacement. That's better in the long run. Make sure you're purchasing from a vendor that can offer the level of support that you need. So if you have a real small IT department and you're going to need the vendor to be really your frontline level of support, make sure they're capable of that. Determine your point of sale budget. Use a return on investment calculation. There's pretty easy ways to figure out what you can afford for a point of sale system. That way you're not overbuying or underbuying. And this is kind of new, but I wanted to share it with folks. Don't rely on the online review sites for references. Websites like Software Advice, they're lead farms. They're basically getting paid to find leads for companies. Some of the reviews are valid, but I doubt the trustworthiness of some of the other reviews on their sites. So that's it. Because that was so fast, here is all my contact information. Again, if your organization needs me to, I do have a flex time day job. I am available for more in-depth help. Obviously, I'm in Idaho, but I have worked with other states outside of Idaho, and we can always chat more to see if there's something I can help you with. I will put this in the video description. Thanks for your patience as I rattled through all that, and contact me with questions.